All right, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Southie Nice coming at you today with an interview with the longest reigning Newcastle Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion in history. And in less than 3 weeks, he will take on his best friend, Headhunter Ray. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carter Deams.
That's former best friend, Joel. Former best friend.
Sorry, former. Sorry,
best
Carter.
Friend.
Former best friend. So what's going on, Carter? How are you, mate?
I'm fantastic. I thought I'd come to the car to get away from the kids. It's nice and quiet in the car. That's why I'm in a car. But yeah, no, good, brother. No complaints on my end. How are you?
Yeah, just been putting up some Christmas lights. You know, mate.
Christmas lights.
Yeah, early.
Getting in the
start
spirit.
Early.
Getting in the spirit.
So let's talk about the weekend. You performed on the New Japan Tamashii shows against was it Uncensored Jordan or Robbie? It was Robbie. What was that like?
Robbie. What was it? Wrestling for New Japan like? Surreal, mate. Surreal feeling. Because of COVID, it sort of felt like the New Japan door might have been closed between Australia and New Japan, and then in particularly me and New Japan. So when I found out they were coming and they were doing a tour, and then when I found out they were interested in using me, and then when I found out I'd be wrestling Robbie, I was just, it validates a lot of hard work that I put in back in the day. And it was unreal feeling being back at Liberty Hall, Max Watts, and huge crowd, great vibes. Yeah, just a good passion booster, mate.
So obviously 3 weeks you take on the Chief Rig in what is the biggest match at City Hall. What's your game plan going into that match to potentially walk out still heavyweight champion?
The same thing I've done the last 2 times Rig and I have been in the ring, just pin him 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's all it takes to win a championship match, Joel. It doesn't matter how you get it done. At the end of the day, you can use some dodgy circumstances. In a couple of years' time, they're not going to look back and remember it. They're just going to see my name in the history books. So, just plan to get the 3 count, however it comes, whatever means necessary. And, 3 from 3 against the Chief.
We've got a question here. What made you join SMS?
I just think a mutual distaste for the way that PWA is run and the people inside it. Jordan and I have a history together, a negative history, you could say, but sometimes that's what makes good mates is, a past. So we put our differences aside. We have a common goal to take over PWA. We both dislike it for different reasons, but just when the offer came up and when Jordan approached me, it seemed like a no-brainer, propel myself higher up the card, get to tag with one of the best wrestlers in PWA, and it's paying dividends.
Now, let's talk about the Babes. Whose idea was originally to create the Babes? Because I still have my Babes jersey in pretty good condition. But so whose idea was it for the Babes?
I think the Babes was originally the brainchild of Adam Hoffman and Harley Wonderland. Even before Wahlberg and I were really wrestling, the Babes existed with Harley Wonderland and Rachel Rose. And then the idea of me and Wahlberg joining was something that came through by Bonzo. It was a recommendation that he gave us. He just said, listen, it's a different dynamic that we've never worked with before, having, this powerful woman having 2 lackeys that are male. It's a very gender-reversed, stereotype for wrestling. It's usually the big man with the, the arm piece that's a female. So it was a complete flip, and Wahlberg and I were both very excited. We both wanted to tag together. We'd been told, since we started training, that we were very similar in style, very similar in looks, in personality. So we knew that there was some mileage between us. And then the Babes gave us, our in onto shows. And that's why we went, we probably had the best debut year of any tag team in, the New South Wales area.
Now, it's been 3 years since you defeated Full Force Matt Rogers. What was that moment like, finally winning the big one against one of the biggest competitors in Australia?
Oh, it's overwhelming, mate. It was you chase something for so long, and I've been through like a fair bit of adversity in my wrestling career till that point. I'd had opportunities come very close and get snatched away from me, things that weren't really my fault. And I'd always been so close and sort of watched opportunities pass me by, knowing that, I had this, I was supposed to go away, watching other people get opportunities. And then, it finally was my turn. It finally came to fruition and, get trusted in the moment and to see and to do it with Rogers. It meant a lot to do it with Rogers. He's a special guy, special human, great wrestler. And yeah, as you said, he's a dominating champion. He still hasn't been pinned. I didn't pin him, but he hadn't been beaten for 3 years at that point. What better way to win a title, I reckon.
We've got another question here from Kyle. What was it like training under the Fale dojo with Bad Luck Fale?
It was terrifying. It was horrible. It was the most challenging 3 months I've ever endured in my life. However, despite it being hard and despite being there and, sort of hating the process and doing thousands of squats and thousands of push-ups and taking bumps and running, kilometers upon kilometers and all the hard work and not really sleeping and eating cheap food and running out of money and being away from home, I look back at it so fondly. It was such a nice moment seeing Andrew and Mike again on the weekend at Tamashi, because they're the boys that I went through the dojo with. And I have such a special bond with them, even still all this time later. And even with, Tyler Payne, Ben Payne, who was there with us, who's moved on from wrestling now, but him and I are still, great friends. It's a brotherhood that you form. And that's what I mean. Getting this reward to be on the Tamashi show, just all my training that I did, although it was 3 or 4 years ago, is still paying dividends now. I'm still getting opportunities, still getting recognized for my hard work. I have a great relationship with Fale-san and Tony-san from the dojo. The people I've been able to meet because of it, people like, Hanare, Ishimori and Kenta this weekend, Jay White, I met Okada, I've met all the people from New Japan. And yeah, although at the time I didn't think I'd get through it and I thought it'd be, I really thought about quitting and thought this is the worst thing I'll ever do. In hindsight, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done.
Now, I usually start this at the front, but what got you into wrestling?
I don't know. I don't often think about my early life because I don't remember. I just have memories of playing with my cousin. Where every time we would travel to Sydney, he was from Sydney and he was a couple of years older than me. He was big into video games, big into magazines at the time. This is around 2002, sort of the Attitude Era. And he's got all these magazines of all these people that I looked up to, and I just managed to stumble into it myself. And I probably found my way there through the video games more than watching it. Obviously, being in Australia, like Raw tends to be live while you're at school. SmackDown's on while you're at school. Pay-per-views cost a lot of money. So I did watch a lot of wrestling, but it was more a video game thing that I think I went through, and that's how I stumbled into it. And I got to a point in my life where, I'd finished school. I wasn't really having a lot of fun at uni at the time, and I was going to drop out, but I wanted something I could sink a lot of time into, something that I could thrust myself into basically full force. Talking about Matt Rogers, I wanted to give something 100% effort, and wrestling just was that. It was something different. It was something unique. I didn't know any wrestlers. I didn't know how big I could make it as a wrestler, but I just thought I'd go and try something different.
Now, what's it like wrestling in front of the Nui Pro faithful?
Oh,
because obviously,
Nui Pro and I have a very a relationship of mutual respect, I would say. Sort of came into it as this young kid, and I grew up in front of the Nui Pro crowd. I started wrestling for them when I was 19 years old, skinny, just had no business being on the shows for the quality that they were in front of as many people as there were, and some of the quality that was in the locker room at the time. I had no business being there, but Wahlberg and I made it work, and we got to make our mistakes, make our, successes in front of that Nui Pro crowd. And then I became, for a period of time, probably the most popular babyface on the roster, maybe a short glimpse. And I've always been, or there was a time where I was, definitely one of the 2 or 3 most popular people there. But then obviously there's now that different perspective where they don't like me as much. They tend to gravitate more towards Regan. It just gives me a different perspective. I still love it. I still love everyone in the crowd, and respect why they don't like me. But, I'm glad that I've got to see it from both perspectives. I'm glad I've got to see it, transform over the years from Charleston now such a venue like City Hall and even the littler shows at the Hoos. I think Newey Pro's watched me grow up, and now it's at a place where I think I'm really giving back to the company.
I think the Who's good shows. I feel like those shows are like something special.
Yeah, it's always a good vibe there, brother. Like, for what we're able to do and put on in such a little venue, it's just, it's special. It started out as just like a little movement between a couple of guys that wanted to give some different people some opportunities, to give some people, give some rookies matches on shows that, they probably weren't going to get at Charlestown Bowling Club at the time, because obviously, you've still got guys like Robbie Eagles and Matt Diamond and Harley Wonderland back then, when, getting on those cards was so hard, but we had so much talent. So these shows allowed us to basically form our own brand, like our own version of NXT, and really, put the pressure on the guys on the top of the card. And if you look back at, some of those original Hoosers, even when they first moved to the Hoos parties, if you look back at those rosters, the translation to the modern day, Newey Pro roster, guys like the Velocities and Ricky South and, myself and Warburg and Rig and Dazzle, we all came through the Hoos. So it's the stepping stone to Newey Pro. And, it's just lucky that we've been able to have some great moments, some great memories there, which not many other companies are able to do such a thing. They don't have the benefit of having such a big school and such a loyal fan base that'll come and watch, young rookies put on a show in Gateshead.
Now, obviously, you and Rig were the headhunters in IWA. Whose idea was that for that team? Because I remember when Mehmet was getting attacked to it, and we thought that it was you guys, and it turned out to be Mr. Juicy Gino Gambino. Whose idea was it for the headhunters?
I think it was. It's a long time ago. I think the idea of us tagging was a bit of me. Rig and I had. It's a funny story. Rig and I had originally planned to travel to Europe, sort of pretty fresh into when Kyle Fletcher had been in the UK and Charlie Evans was there, and we sort of were just looking to, one, go and wrestle overseas, but two, we just wanted to go on a European holiday. We had tickets booked to go to the Progress Super Strong Style 16, which was, up there with Bowler as the best indie tournament in the world. And we had tickets to go to that, and we just sort of thought maybe there'll be an opportunity if we get there to wrestle on a couple of shows in England. And if there's only one spot, maybe it's worth having, a tag team with matching gimmicks. And then once Rig heard gimmick, he sort of was able to delve into what he's really good at. And he came up with the actually being the headhunters and wearing the clothes. And obviously he was able to continue that gimmick on through Newey Pro, through PWA, and use it for years and years and years while I sort of moved on into the Babes. But it was a mutual idea to tag based on circumstances. We wanted to be prepared to tag if that sort of came up in the UK, and then he was able to grab the gimmick and run with it.
We've got a question here. How much of your persona, dare I say, gimmick is the real you, and what wrestlers of the past do you draw inspiration from?
None. I'm nothing like. I suppose I am a little bit in a sense. I'm quite a confident guy, quite a sarcastic guy. But yeah, I don't talk to people the way I talk. Definitely don't talk to people the way I talk to people in real life. I quite think that I'm just a nice average guy. There's not much too interesting about me. I'm just, standard. I don't have many tricks or, I'm not all that interesting. So I had to really ramp up the interest when I started wrestling. And there's obviously some similarities, but, there's not much. And then wrestler I've drawn inspiration from, man, I don't really know. I feel like I just sort of people from pop culture that I don't really. I think if you try and draw inspiration from wrestlers, you're often compared to wrestlers. I think I drew more inspiration from guys like Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and guys that are in combat sports, but they're just even like Chael Sonnen, people that really sarcastic. They don't really care about anything. They like to hype up fights, and then they really back it up in the ring. That's where I sort of draw more inspiration from. And, guys like Cristiano Ronaldo and sort of that ego of professional athletes, LeBron James, I'll sort of watch and go, I'd like to tailor myself more towards that, because I would hate to get compared to another wrestler and go, oh, you're a little bit like, Seth Rollins or Tyler Breeze or whoever people might compare me to. I don't want to be compared to wrestlers.
We got a question here. Any plans to wrestle interstate or overseas in the future?
Yeah, man. Overseas, probably not. I got 3 kids. I study at uni full time. I work, pretty much full time. I don't really have a lot of time to just dedicate to going overseas for a long period of time to try and hustle on the indies. It's not my style. It's not what I see myself doing in the wrestling business anymore. At least not now. Like, I'd obviously love to go and do a tour for a month or so when the kids are a bit older. But interstate, yeah, for sure, man. I'd love to head to Melbourne, head to Adelaide. Obviously, I've got a few things in the works. I've always got things in the works. I've got great relationships with most of the guys and girls that matter in the hire companies up around Australia, guys in EPW and MCW and RCW, and I have managed to build like a good rapport with everyone, and I'm sure it would only take a message saying, hey, I'm interested, hey, I'm going to be at your show this date. Could you find me a spot? And it's obviously something that Braxton and I are going to work towards. He's trying to get overseas, get the name out there a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we are 3 weeks away from the final show for Nui Pro, featuring the return of former Newcastle Pro Wrestling Women's Champion, the Python Powerhouse, Steph. Where can people buy those tickets?
Just search it on Google, Deck the City Halls Newcastle, and it'll be the first thing that you click on. Or you can find it on the Nui Pro website or any of the Nui Pro social medias. There's links that you can click on. It'll take you straight to the tickets.
Easy. What does the future hold for one Carter Deams?
A title retention at Nui Pro. Probably venture off into getting the tag titles with Ben Braxton, and then probably try and bring the exception to SMS or bring it to PWA. I'm going to have a word with Jordan. That would be such a nice thing to bring me and Braxton into PWA. But obviously, if he doesn't fit the SMS bill, he doesn't fit the SMS bill. But I think there's a lot of good tag teams around New South Wales, around Melbourne, around Adelaide that could really benefit from wrestling us. I say that in an ego. I didn't mean to sound in an ego way. I think the shows would benefit from having me and Braxton on that. But yeah, man, just keep hustling away. I don't have any drastic plans to change anything. Things are going really well. I'm making money. I'm performing on big shows. I've got enough time to spend at home with the kids. Like, living the dream.
Living the dream. All right, now I don't have any Cutter Dame shirts. Are there any left in like XL? Because I have like no Cutter Dame shirts at all.
Listen, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure I'm sold out, but I'm pretty sure I could dig through the tub and see if there's anything in there. I was under the impression that I gave my last one to Beck on the weekend. Because the reason I knew it was my last one is because it was the one I was wearing. Now I don't even have one, but there is a merch tub at the Who somewhere, and there might be one in there for you, Joel.
Easy as. Where can people find you on social media?
I don't know what my handle is. I think it's Carter Deams Pro. Yeah, but I don't know what it is. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram's my favorite. If you ever want to message me or get in contact, Instagram is the place to find me. Twitter, I just use to, keep up to date with what's happening in the world. It seems to be where news gets dropped.
That's Instagram there, guys.
That's just about it. Carter_Deams Pro.
Instagram,
that's
guys.
Me.
Right there.
Feel free to find me on TikTok as well, because
that's it.
I'm famous on TikTok.
You're not as famous as there's a few was around, but hopefully I'll see you soon, Carter. We'll
there's a couple of other ones that are pretty big time.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have Rig on soon. He did say next few weeks, obviously. Biggest I remember when he was Oliver Young
I remember when he was Oliver Young
Pro,
too.
Mate,
Yeah,
those
I
were the
remember Oliver
years.
Young.
And I think Newey Pro did a show at the entrance, and that was a pretty good show. Opening match was, I believe, who was it? I think it was Robbie versus like a young Rig. I
Yep,
was like
that's a
probably
match that happened.
2017. So, Carter,
Yep,
this has been fun, man. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully soon I'll see you at a show, whether it be new or the final PWA show, December 10th, Factory
I'll
Theatre
see you at
in
Declan City Halls,
Marrickville. Get
mate.
your tickets for all things. I don't know yet. Probably not. Obviously,
Nah, you'll be there.
work around Christmas time, it does get busy. So we will see. If not, I'll see you
I'll see
at
you there.
PWA.
No, I'll see
Anyway,
you at Declan City Halls.
guys, don't forget. I'll try and be there. We'll
I'll see you
see.
there.
Guys, don't forget
See you in the ring.
turn on the notification, ring that bell, hit that sub button. 2022 is nearly over. We got a few interviews coming up with Headhunter Rig. I'm sorry, the Chief, Kid Valiant, and a few guys. Until next time, I've been Southie. He's been the world's finest Carter Deams, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.